European Commissioner Phil Hogan and Michael Jackson, Managing Partner at Matheson, welcome to our interview on Brexit today, coming from the headquarters of the European Commission here at the Berlaymont, Brussels. So, Commissioner Hogan, 5 months on from the Brexit vote in June, what is the thinking now from Brussels with respect to the prospect of Britain departing the EU?
Well, we can only go on the lines of what the British Prime Minister has said, that Brexit is Brexit, and we have to prepare accordingly. So we're waiting for the British government to trigger the mechanism that commences the negotiations. They call it Article 50. So sooner that we see the triggering of this process, of course, we can get down to work. And the timeline involved is 2 years from the triggering of the process. And hopefully that this can happen in 2 years, and that we will have stability and certainty again between the United Kingdom and the European Union, and of course within the United Kingdom and the European Union. And this is the way that the process will work. So we have been given an indication that this process will commence at the end of March 2017.
Michael?
From our perspective, Liz, we are certainly seeing that UK-based business is now preparing for life post-Brexit. The speed at which they are preparing varies depending on the sector. It varies depending on factors like how important an EU passport is going to be to that business into the future, what the clients or customers are telling that business about their desire to deal with an EU entity, and how easy it is logistically to move the business from the UK into other centres. But certainly in the financial services space, we are seeing the passport as a critical factor, and we are seeing financial services already starting their applications for an EU regulated entity in Ireland or looking to expand their existing Irish operation.
Commissioner, can you tell us a little bit about the preparatory work which is being undertaken by the EU's chief negotiator for Brexit, Michel Barnier? What work has been undertaken already in preparation for what's to come?
Well, the way the negotiations will commence is that the European Commission has appointed a chief negotiator, as you rightly point out, Michel Barnier, and the Commission will do all of the various detailed work associated with the negotiations. But they have to respect and do so in the context of a mandate for those negotiations, which will be laid down by all of the 27 Prime Ministers of the European Union, in other words, the European Council. And ultimately, it will be the European Council will make the final decisions at the end of the 2-year process. And it will require the majority vote of the European Council and of the European Parliament for the approval of any document that ultimately will be presented by Mr. Barnier and his team. So he has been in a lot of capitals already, staking out the territory, and including in Dublin, and he is engaging this week as we speak with all of the member states and the various officials about their priorities in the context of any negotiations. And there's a task force established as well to support his work here in the Commission.
And we've mentioned the fact that it's anticipated 2-year negotiation period is provided for, massive amount of complexity. Do we think it's realistic that once the trigger goes off that it will be able to be done within a 2-year period?
Well, I suppose we are in uncharted waters. It's the first time an EU member has left the European Union, and it's the first major disentanglement since the Second World War within Europe. So it is certainly going to be a very complex process, but of course this is the challenge for the negotiators. So we'll have to wait and see how much progress can be made, or what is the negotiating criteria that will be laid down.
Of course, while the treaty provides for 2 years for the political process, the business community doesn't have the ability in many cases to wait for 2 years because of the logistics involved in applying for and obtaining a regulatory license if one is needed, the logistics in identifying property and agreeing terms of leases and so on, the logistics of hiring and moving people. So we are seeing businesses already start to implement their plans because clearly the uncertainty leaves them with no option but to assume that they will need an EU presence after that 2-year period.
And Commissioner Hogan, following on from that, could the May 2019 European parliamentary elections be impacted if the negotiation period goes beyond 2 years?
Yes, if the negotiations are not completed by the European elections in 2019, the United Kingdom, who have 73 members of the European Parliament at the moment, will be entitled to contest those elections. But we have to operate on the basis that the negotiations will be completed within the 2-year period. And of course, if that is the case, they will not be able to have members of the European Parliament. So it all depends on the speed of the negotiations.